गौरवान् निर्विशेष शून्यवादि पाश्चात्य देशधारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुर्लङ्घायते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरं हरि ओं तत्सत्। Hare Krishna. So, as usual, I will begin with a short recap from yesterday's session. Yesterday's session was also somewhat disruptive from my end. I had some connection issues, internet issues, and power issues. So, it was just a reminder that this material world is not an ideal place. A lot of disruptions and miseries. But anyhow, so we are in this wonderful journey of understanding and practicing Bhagavad Gita in our lives. Chapter 3 is more on Karma Yoga, where the Supreme Lord Krishna is actually imparting this wonderful knowledge. If you recollect the reasoning behind why Krishna is speaking Karma Yoga, so basically because Arjuna was hesitating to indulge in the warfare. He did not want to fight against the Kauravas. So he was giving many reasons, which we saw in chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita. So, and in the beginning of chapter 3, Arjuna posed a question. So, Krishna, you are saying that I should be indulging in activities like fighting in the warfare. But I may incur some sinful reaction because I am going to kill people in the warfare. So, which is better for me? Is it better that I should fight in the warfare, or let me not perform any activity at all? I will become a sannyasi. So, which is better, you tell me? So, that's where Krishna began to give the knowledge on what renunciation means. Most of us think that somebody, if he understands Bhagavad Gita, then he is going to the forest and he will not have any interactions with the family. Like especially in South India, in certain section, there is this culture, especially when a boy and girl gets married, there is something called Kashi Yatra, right? So that is where most of the Hindus, we have taken a look into Bhagavad Gita and other scriptures. So the boy is supposed to be taking Bhagavad Gita with an umbrella and he goes on a Kashi Yatra. He doesn't want to get married, right? And then what happens? The girl's side, they go and pursue the boy. Don't worry, my daughter will be cooperative and she will serve you nicely. So you both can wonderfully, as a grahastha, try to serve the Lord. So that is the whole principle. But unfortunately, these days it becomes like more of a norm rather than understanding the reason behind why it is performed. So the essence is, even remaining as a grahastha, performing one's own duty, we can actually remain renounced. Renunciation is not all about the dress. Somebody is wearing a saffron robe, it doesn't mean that he is a sannyasi or a renunciant. So rather, one can remain as a grahastha, as husband and wife, serve the Supreme Lord Krishna, and by doing so, he is considered as a renunciant because he does not indulge in activities other than the service to the Supreme Lord. So that is the perspective that Krishna is bringing in here. The renunciation is not about stopping the activities, rather performing activities. Can you hear me now?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Yes.
So I was talking about the first section where Krishna in the third chapter gave the knowledge of what renunciation means. Subsequently, Krishna was speaking about the whole cycle of sacrifice. So what for sacrifices are performed? Sacrifices are performed ultimately to please the Supreme Lord Krishna. Right? So we all know what Vedas mean. Right? I think in the session we saw that Krishna gave the Vedas to Lord Brahma. So Brahma received it, and in the Vedas, there are performances of sacrifices mentioned. So those are typically performed by Grahasthas. So when they perform sacrifices, so that is actually pleasing the Lord, and because of which you receive rain. And with rain, we are able to get grains out of it. Right? So grains require rain. And who consumes the grain? It is consumed by all the living entities. And when the living entities, instead of consuming the grain for their own satisfaction, if they offer those grains back to the Supreme Lord Krishna, so that actually completes the sacrifice, which is very, very important. Right? So if we don't offer grains or whatever we are consuming, be it fruits or vegetables, so on and so forth. If we are not offering those to the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, then it incurs us sin. Right? Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is clearly saying that those who are not offering foodstuff to me, they are verily eating sin. Why is it so? Because the foodstuffs came from the Supreme Lord. We are not completing that cycle. If we don't complete that cycle of sacrifice, then we incur sin. Every temple that you go in India, whether it is north or south or east or west, you get prasadam, right, in the temple. So typically in South India, they give in donna. So we are thinking that only when we go to the temple and we receive it from the pujari, the donna of prasadam, whether it is puliyogare or whatever, when pongal, only that is prasadam. No, that is not the case. Even at home, whatever cooking that we are doing, the intention of that cooking is to offer it to the Supreme Lord Krishna. That is called Naivedyam. So when we offer sincerely to the Supreme Lord Krishna, and what we are getting back from Krishna is prasadam. Because Krishna is pleased with that offering and he is giving back his mercy. That mercy is what we call as prasadam. Right? On a daily basis, when we keep doing this, we are actually getting the mercy of the Supreme Lord Krishna and we are completing that cycle of sacrifice. I was also telling an instance where a devotee or a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, he went to a place and he performed Harinama Sankirtanam, which actually invoked rain. That place was completely, completely in drought for many years, and suddenly when the devotees started performing Harinama Sankirtanam, from nowhere, the rain got poured, and the place, and basically the devotees there, they got that faith back that indeed whatever Krishna mentioned in Bhagavad Gita is true. When you perform that sacrifice, then the Supreme Lord is pleased and we are going to flourish. So that is on the next section of cycle of sacrifice. And subsequently, Krishna spoke about how Arjuna is not just an individual. He was actually representing the entire dynasty and he is responsible for all the prajas under him. So as a leader, he was supposed to be acting responsibly because whatever the leaders do, common men automatically follow. We are finding even in the modern day as well. I was giving examples of actors and sportsmen and politicians. So whatever they perform, people imitate. Right? People even build temples for actors. So that is the extent to which the leaders can make an impact. So as a leader, Krishna was urging Arjuna to perform the prescribed duties, perform Krishna conscious activities, so that people who are following Arjuna so will be guided properly. So that was the third section we saw. And finally, what is it that is going to stop us from performing sacrifices or remaining in Krishna consciousness? So that as well Krishna speaks about. So basically he's saying Kameyesha Krodayesho Rajoguna Bhavat Samudbhavat. So Kama, lust is the root cause. Why somebody is not able to perform bhakti or Krishna conscious activity? Because he has desires other than serving the Supreme Lord. And what is that desire called? It's called Kama, lust. When I am trying to satisfy my own senses, I want to have a vision of something which is pleasing to my eyes, I want to eat something which is pleasing to my mouth, and so on and so forth, forgetting completely the Supreme Lord Krishna, that is what is called Kama. Krishna says that is our main enemy. So how we can overcome such lusty desires? When we can dovetail those desires in the Supreme Lord's service, that way we will be able to overcome the lusty desires. Like for example, I have a hankering to eat nice gulab jamun. So when I don't offer to Krishna and I consume that gulab jamun, what is it that I am going to incur? Can anybody say? So I eat 5 gulab jamuns, but I am not offering it to Krishna. What is it that I am going to incur?
Eating sin.
Eating sin. Right? Sin is not that you go and kill an ant or you go and kill an animal, only then you incur sin. No. Right? So I was telling yesterday that we cannot say I am a proud vegetarian. If you don't offer something to Krishna and eat even a vegetarian food, still we are going to incur sin. So I have an hankering to eat gulab jamun. Why not offer it to Krishna? In any case, Krishna is not going to swallow all the 5 gulab jamuns. He is only going to eat through his eyes, and he will happily give back all the 5 gulab jamuns to us. So why don't we offer? So offering is what? You place in a nice bowl those 5 gulab jamuns, place one tulasi on top of it, keep it in front of the Supreme Lord Krishna's photo or deity or idol, whatever you have. Chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra 3 times, ring the bell, sincerely offer your prayers that I have made this gulab jamun for you. Please take it. And then after a few minutes, you give some time for the Lord to eat, and then you take it back and you can have as much as you want. What is happening because of this? We are getting rid of all the sinful reactions that could come. And we are actually performing a Krishna conscious service by offering to the Supreme Lord Krishna. Right? So these are some of the aspects that we saw yesterday. Any question that you have before we proceed? Sorry, I took a little bit longer for the recap, mainly because yesterday's session was disruptive. So I wanted to make sure that the message is conveyed properly. Any questions from yesterday's session? Okay, so if there are no questions, we can proceed with the chapter 4. Again, continuation of Karma Yoga. Supreme Lord Krishna is going to explain. Nice. So before we proceed, what is Karma Yoga? And how is it different from Bhakti Yoga? I think it is important for us to understand this before proceeding further with the chapter 4. See, we all have this misconception about Karma Yoga. The word yoga, the meaning of the word yoga is not about doing some asana or physical exercise. Recently, I think we had the Yoga Day, International Yoga Day initiative from the Prime Minister of India. It is good though to celebrate yoga, but unfortunately, the misconception among people is that yoga means it's a physical exercise to keep our body fit. But what is the basic knowledge that we are getting from second chapter concerning our body? Can anybody say?
Body is temporary, not a permanent.
Right. Are we this body?
We are not this body, we are the spirit soul.
We are the spirit soul.
We are not the body.
Thank you, Magesh Prabhu. Yeah, so that is the basic understanding. That is not the end goal of spiritual realization. That is the basics. Right. So we need to understand that we are not this body. So when we are performing all these asanas only to maintain our body, then that is not yoga. Sorry to say. So the word yoga comes from the Sanskrit dhatu called yuj. Yuj means to connect. So connect between whom and whom, between the individual soul and the supreme soul. We are actually establishing a connection between us and the Supreme Lord Krishna. So that is the very essence of the word yoga. Now that connection can happen in many forms. It can be through Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, or Bhakti Yoga. So there are different other yogas as well, which are not mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, like Hatha Yoga and various other things. But predominantly, these are the different types of yogas. Now, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna speaks about Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. As I mentioned in the earlier class as well, Bhakti Yoga, Krishna speaks about in the middle chapters, between the 7th chapter and 12th chapter. It is like the creamy layer of Bhagavad Gita. Just like how I'm sure you all have had sandwiches, right? Sandwich, you typically have two breads, and in between you will have a creamy layer. Which is the tastier part of sandwich? That creamy layer, right? So inside you would have cheese, or you can have paneer, vegetables, all those things, right? So that is the tastiest part. So similarly, in Bhagavad Gita, Supreme Lord Krishna has sandwiched Bhakti Yoga in between Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. Right? So Bhakti Yoga is the sweetest part of Bhagavad Gita. And that is what Krishna wants to present so that we all understand the essence of Bhagavad Gita. So just to highlight the difference between Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga, which is very important for us to understand. So basically, Karma Yoga is where the intention or the attachment is towards performing one's activities. Right? Say, for example, I am a software engineer, so I am very attached to my work. Right? I go every day to office between Monday to Friday, work from morning 9 to night 6 o'clock. So I am so attached to my activities. I am also attached to my family. right? So, but in spite of all this, I am actually trying to connect with the Supreme Lord Krishna. By what means? By offering the result of my activity towards the Supreme Lord Krishna. Like, for example, when I work 30 days, in a month, I'm going to get my salary. So I can offer that salary as a result to the Supreme Lord Krishna instead of enjoying it for my own senses. I can give it to a temple. I can use it for prasadam distribution. I can buy Bhagavad Gitas and distribute to my near and dear ones. In so many different ways, I can engage that money, right? And somebody may have an inclination towards cooking, right? Somebody may be a caterer. So then he can engage that activity of cooking food stuff to be engaged in the Lord's service, right? So that is karma yoga in a sense. So you perform your activities, you are attached to an activity, but you don't enjoy the result of that activity, but rather you give it to the Supreme Lord because you don't want to incur sins. You give it to the Supreme Lord. You start developing detachment towards the result, and you also start gaining knowledge why you are doing what you are doing, right? So these are the three aspects: offering the result to the Supreme Lord Krishna, developing detachment, and gaining knowledge. So once somebody does these three, then we are in the process of performing karma yoga. Now, when it comes to bhakti yoga, the key difference is the activity itself is performed for the pleasure of Supreme Lord Krishna. Right? I will give you one short, small example. I have a hankering to eat gulab jamun. So what I do, I perform, I basically prepare gulab jamun, I offer it to Krishna, and I start having it. So that is, you can say, karma yoga. Rather, I am a diabetes patient. I don't have any hankering towards gulab jamun, but still I make it. I offer it to Krishna and I distribute it to whoever come to my house. Right? Because I want to offer gulab jamun to Lord Krishna. It is not the other way around. In the first case, I have a liking towards gulab jamun, so I am offering it to Krishna. In the second case, I don't want gulab jamun because I cannot have. But I am making it because I want to offer it to Krishna. That will please Krishna. So that is Bhakti Yoga. Right? So you are getting this point? So in essence, if you analyze it deep, Arjuna, who was fighting in the battlefield, was he performing Karma Yoga or Bhakti Yoga? Can anyone answer? You need to answer and you also need to substantiate your answer.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji.
Prabhuji. Is doing it as karma yoga because as a Kshatriyan he's fighting.
Right.
And he's doing that to please Bhagavan.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
Fair enough. Thank you, Mataji. Any other answers?
I believe it is bhakti yoga.
Why?
Because he was not doing for himself. He
Right.
didn't wanted to do that. He
Right.
was doing for Lord Krishna because he made him guru and he did actually to please only to Lord Krishna.
Excellent. Excellent. Right. So that requires slight analysis. Right. So we saw in the first chapter, Arjuna did not want to fight. He was not at all interested to fight. But still he goes ahead and fights in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Why? Because that is going to please Krishna. That's the key differentiating factor. I may not like a particular activity, but still I do that activity because I want to please Krishna. Clear? So it may begin with a Karma Yoga. In our case, we may begin with Karma Yoga, but eventually we need to transcend to the Bhakti Yoga platform. Initially, we may have hankering to satisfy our senses. So we perform certain activities, but instead of incurring sinful reactions, we offer it to Krishna. So that will be a Karma Yoga activity, but eventually that should get transcended into a Bhakti Yoga activity. So that requires definite guidance and practice. But to begin with, we all need to perform Karma Yoga. Okay, so with that note, I will begin this chapter. One of you can acknowledge if you can see my screen in the slide mode, PowerPoint slide mode. Are you able to?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, so this chapter is also titled as Transcendental Knowledge. This knowledge that Krishna is giving to all of us, it is transcendental. Something which is not available in the material world. It is transcending the material knowledge. So in the beginning slokas, Krishna speaks about how one should receive that knowledge, the lineage of receiving transcendental knowledge. Then Krishna speaks about his own appearance and why he appears in this material world. What is the reason behind it? And then Krishna talks about how there are different paths. Each path may not lead to the end destination. We may be thinking that I am following a certain spiritual path. He or she is following some other path. Eventually, both the paths would lead to one destination. No, that is not the case. Need not be the case. And then between 16 to 24 slokas, Krishna gives the knowledge of karma, how one can perform activities without incurring either sinful or pious credits. So that is given between 16 to 24. And then 25 to 33, Krishna speaks about how one can attain jnana, this transcendental knowledge, by performing sacrifices. And finally, what is the result of attaining that knowledge, transcendental knowledge? So, in a nutshell, these are the different topics of discussion in this chapter. Let's begin. Wonderful verse beginning from the second verse of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshyo viduhu sakale neha mahata yogo nashta parantapa. Translation: this supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it appears to be lost. So this knowledge given in the Bhagavad Gita, this is not the first time that Krishna is giving. Yesterday, somebody was telling about how this was given to the sun god. Right? So anybody knows what was the original parampara of this knowledge? Who gave this to whom and how it got transmitted? So in the previous verse, Krishna is speaking about that. Imam vivashvate yogam proktavan aham avyayam vivashvan manave prahu manurikshvatave pravit. So Krishna is giving this knowledge to Vivaswan. Who is Vivaswan? Sorry?
Sun god.
Sun god.
Right? So from sun god, who receives it?
Manu.
Manu.
Manu Prabhu.
Manu.
Yeah, Manu, and from Manu?
Ishwaku.
Ikshvaku. So Ikshvaku was the, who was Ikshvaku?
It's the king, huh? I don't.
Yeah. So you remember the lineage of Lord Ram, right?
Yes,
Dashrath
Prabhu.
Maharaj and the ancestors of Dashrath Maharaj. The beginning of that lineage was from Ikshvaku Maharaj.
Uh-huh.
So this knowledge, you can imagine, this was given long back by the Supreme Lord, right? So one may be wondering, Prabhu, but Rama came first, only then came Krishna, right? So that question we may be having. Actually speaking, these yugas, Satya Yuga,
Repeating.
Dwapara and Kali Yuga, they are going in a cycle eternally. So we are in a particular Kali Yuga. It's not that this is the first Kali Yuga, right?
Yes.
So ever since we all came into existence, which is eternally, right? So since then, all these yugas are going in a cycle. So this knowledge was given way back to the sun god, right? Vivashwan. So from Vivashwan, it came to Manu, and from Manu to Ikshvaku. So that's how this knowledge was transmitted. And unfortunately, in between, the succession was broken. Krishna is saying, because of that, I am again giving this transcendental knowledge to you. Right? So that is the reason why Bhagavad Gita was spoken again. Okay. So this is an eternal education. We are going to see who are qualified to acquire this knowledge, from whom are we supposed to acquire this knowledge, and what is this all about. So that will be coming in the few slides. Okay, so this knowledge was given to Arjuna. What was the qualification of Arjuna? We saw in the Gita Mahatmya as well. Arjuna was both a devotee and a friend of the Supreme Lord Krishna. Right? So if we want to receive this knowledge, transcendental knowledge, we need to become a devotee of Krishna, and we also need to develop some relationship with Krishna. Primarily, there are 5 relationships that one can develop with the Supreme Lord. Dasya, Sakhya, Shanta, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. You may have a neutral relationship called Shanta. You may have a servant relationship called Dasya Bhava. You may have a friendly relationship, Sakhya. Or we may have a parental relationship, Vatsalya, or a conjugal relationship, Madhurya. Right? So in one form or other, we need to develop some relationship with the Supreme Lord Krishna. Only then we can receive this transcendental knowledge. Right? And you need to make a relevant inquiry and follow the instruction of the Supreme Lord Krishna. By doing so, we are actually receiving this transcendental knowledge. From whom are we supposed to be receiving? These days, it is the known fact that you go on internet, you go to Google, or you go to YouTube, and you see some lectures of somebody, some unknown personality or known personality. You start hearing to the classes or lectures, and then you receive some knowledge. No, unfortunately, that should not be done. The knowledge that we are receiving, it should come from authentic sources, from authorized personalities. Just like how on the right side you can see different trademarks, right? You have the ISI trademark, you have HTTPS, which is like a secured connection, and you have this green and maroon symbols, which typically we can find on foodstuffs, right? So when we find something with a green label, what does it mean? It means that it is a vegetarian food. Right? Somebody is authorizing that this is a vegetarian food. And similarly, if you go and buy some organic foodstuff, it should have a proper authorization seal. Right? So only then we will be able to confirmly say that this is an authentic food. Similarly, when it comes to spiritual knowledge, we need to receive that knowledge from authentic sources. But unfortunately, we tend to analyze into many of the material aspects. Like, for example, when somebody's children, they want to join a college, we do deep study. We inquire from so many people, and then we go on the internet and we search for the authenticity of the college, how good is it, whether is it getting a lot of campus recruitment. So many analysis we do. But when it comes to spiritual subject matters, we go and hear from anyone and everyone. How fair is it? Just because somebody is having a tilak or a shika or a vibhuti, somebody having a matted hair, so these are not qualifications for spiritual personality. Spiritual personality is someone who received the knowledge from an authorized and authentic source. Here in the diagram, I have tried to depict the different authentic paramparas. From Supreme Lord Krishna came 4 authentic paramparas. One is the Lakshmi Sampradaya or the Sri Sampradaya, which is represented by the great Acharya Ramanujacharya. Then you have the Brahma Sampradaya. From Brahma, it came to Narada Muni, then to Vyasadeva, and then on to Madhvacharya. And in that line comes Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the Supreme Lord Krishna himself. And that is the line in which Srila Prabhupada is also connected to. And then the third authentic Sampradaya is coming from Rudra. In that parampara, there is a great Acharya called Vishnu Swami. You all would be aware of the name Vallabhacharya, right? The great devotee of the Supreme Lord Krishna. So Vallabhacharya also comes in that parampara. And the fourth authentic parampara is coming from the 4 Kumaras, Sanaka, Sananda, Sanatana, and Sanat Kumara. They also have a parampara. And Nimbarkacharya is the representative spiritual master of that parampara. Right? So this Vaishnava philosophy or Siddhanta, it can be received from any one of these 4 authentic paramparas. Is that clear?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. So this transcendental knowledge, when we receive from one of these authentic sources, then we are going to get the great benefit. So this is also mentioned in the scriptures, where it says Ramanuja was chosen by Lord Lakshmi, goddess Lakshmi, to represent her Sampradaya. Madhvacharya was chosen by the 4-headed Brahma, Vishnu Swami by Rudra, and Nimbaditya, who is the Nimbarkacharya. He was chosen by the 4 Kumaras. Right? So ours, ISKCON's Sampradaya, is coming in the line of Lord Brahma. That is why it is called Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. Okay. So just like how when we go to a college admission, the first thing that we will see is whether it is affiliated to any authorized university. Right? Especially in Tamil Nadu, you have Anna University or Madras University. So when some college is affiliated to such an authentic university, then we go and enroll our children there. Similarly, when we receive the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita from any one of these authorized paramparas, then the subject received is correct. In the introduction to Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada is giving the detailed parampara lineage, starting from Supreme Lord Krishna. From Krishna, it came to Brahma, to Narada, to Vyasa, to Madhva, Padmanabha, so on and so forth. Finally, it comes down. Srila Prabhupada is the 32nd Acharya in the line of this disciplic succession. So that is why this Bhagavad Gita written by Srila Prabhupada, it is called Bhagavad Gita as it is. So you receive the knowledge as it was spoken by Supreme Lord Krishna to Arjuna. There is no concoction or modifications of the message. It is received as it is. And in the next section, Krishna gives the reasons behind why he appeared in this material world. See, Krishna eternally resides in his abode. That is called spiritual world. Right? You can call it as Vaikuntha or Goloka Vrindavana. So that is where Supreme Lord is residing. Every now and then, he comes down to this material world where we are actually living. And what is the reason why he comes down? He himself says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srajamyaham. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharata, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I design myself. So, whenever there is a rise of adharma, whenever people follow irreligiosity, in order to re-establish dharma, the Supreme Lord comes down. Right? And one more reason that he says, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkrita dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. For every yuga, I appear. For what I appear? I appear to protect the devotees, protect the sadhus, and dushkritam. Dushkritam means miscreants or atheists, demons. So in order to annihilate the demons and to re-establish dharma. So for these three reasons, I appear millennium after millennium. So in this section, Supreme Lord Krishna is giving the reasons for his appearance and what is it that we are going to get by understanding this reason. Right? So one may be wondering, in this Kali Yuga, Krishna himself said, no, he is going to appear whenever adharma is rising. But in Kali Yuga, in our present age, we can clearly see that dharma is somewhere hiding. Adharma is very prominent. Right? People cheat each other. They misuse the public money. There is no dharma being followed here. Dharmic principles, the four pillars of dharma, are not followed sincerely. There is no mercy. Dharma stands on four pillars. Daya or mercy, right? And austerity. Austerity or tamam. So that is the second principle. And cleanliness or saucham. So that is the third aspect. And finally, truthfulness. So these are the four pillars of dharma. Austerity, cleanliness, truthfulness, and mercy. But if you find in Kali Yuga, all these principles are casually broken. Right? You kill or slaughter animals like anything, and then you don't act truthfully. Right? In Kali Yuga, actually, there is still certain bit of truthfulness which is holding on, but the other three pillars are gone, completely gone. But one may be wondering why Supreme Lord Krishna has not yet come. We are only expecting him to come towards the end of Kali Yuga, isn't it? The Kalki avatar. Why he has not come so far when irreligiosity is so prominent? The answer is Supreme Lord has already come. In what form had he come? He has come in the form of his holy name. The Sankirtana Yajna has already begun. 500 years back, Krishna came as Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is all mentioned in the scriptures. He advented in the land of Mayapur near Kolkata. And he spread this Nama Sankirtanam to every town and village. Right? So this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So this is called Mahamantra, and this was given by the Supreme Lord Krishna himself when he came as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 500 years back. And people get delivered just by reciting this holy name of the Supreme Lord. All the demonic mentality within our heart will evaporate when somebody recites this holy name. Right? So the Supreme Lord has already advented in the Kali Yuga now, 500 years back, and through his mercy, we all can get delivered. And finally, in the 9th verse, Krishna is speaking about what is the result of understanding the Lord's advent and his activities. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yovetti tatvatah tyaktva deham punarjanmanaiti mam yeti so Arjuna. So when somebody can understand the Lord's janma and karma, the Lord's birth and the Lord's activities, then for such a personality, there is no punarjanma. No need for one to take rebirth again. So that is the benefit of understanding in truth the birth and activities of the Supreme Lord Krishna. Which means it is not so easy to understand the Lord's pastimes, the Lord's Janma. We may be thinking that Lord Krishna also was born in this material world to his parents, Devaki and Vasudeva. He also was crawling and performing all activities like any child. He also stole butter. Right? So he also got into a lot of troubles. Many demons came and attacked him. So how different is he? He is also like a material person like us. So that is the prominent thought process among people. They don't consider the small boy, little boy crawling in the forest of Vrindavana as the Supreme Lord Krishna. Rather, they consider him to be one among us. Probably he is a Devata, he is a demigod. But the fact is that he is a supreme personality of Godhead. He is the boss of every other Devatas, including Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. So it is not so easy to understand this. Even Lord Brahma, if you study Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto, he himself got bewildered. You know what Krishna did? Krishna, he was playing with his Gopa friends in the damsels of Vraja. So what happened? The Gopa friends, they were very closely connected to Supreme Lord Krishna. So each day, they bring a lot of foodstuff from their home and they eat together. Where they eat in a place called Govardhana. So that day, when Lord Brahma was watching little boy Krishna, you know what happened? Krishna was about to drink sweet rice, payasam. And one of Krishna's friend, one of the Krishna's Gopa friend, you know what he did? He put his hand inside the mouth of Lord Krishna. When Krishna was about to swallow the sweet rice, he took it from Lord Krishna's mouth and he drank. And you know what Krishna did? He did the same thing. He put his hand inside the mouth of his friend and picked up the foodstuff and he started to drink. Brahma, looking at the Supreme Lord Krishna, small little boy, who is doing such an ordinary petty thing, he got completely shocked. What is this? I am thinking that this boy is the Supreme Lord, but here he is eating in this fashion. He is the creator of the entire universe. Is he supposed to be performing such an activity? So Brahma was completely bewildered. He thought that, okay, maybe Lord Vishnu is the supreme, but this little boy Krishna, he could not be the supreme Lord. Right? So it is not so easy to understand the activities of Supreme Lord Krishna. And why he was born the way he was born, inside a prison house. He is the Bhagavan. How opulent is he? Why is he taking birth inside a prison? That too before 6 of his brothers got killed. What is this? Is he the Supreme Lord? One may be wondering with such a question. So that's why we need to understand this truth from a bona fide Acharya. On our own, we may not be able to understand the Janma or Karma of the Supreme Lord Krishna. We need to understand this through oral reception from a bona fide Sampradaya. In fact, it is mentioned in the scriptures that when somebody is hearing the pastime of Krishna killing all the demons like Sakatasura, or Trinavartasura, or Agasura, Bagasura, so many demons that the Supreme Lord Krishna killed, Putana. When somebody hears all these pastimes from a bona fide source, each one of the bad qualities in us, like the Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, all these bad qualities, they completely go away from us. Such is the power of hearing the pastimes of Lord Krishna. That's why in each and every town and village, we used to have Harikatha. Right? The pastimes of the Supreme Lord Krishna from Srimad Bhagavatam. People used to hear Ramayana, Mahabharata, and so many other wonderful pastimes of the Supreme Lord. Why? Because by hearing from an authentic source, our anarthas are being cleansed. So that is the power of this knowledge. So when Krishna has made such an elaborate educational system, it is our duty to search for an affiliated university or affiliated parampara. And we need to find a proper eligible guru, spiritual master. That is our duty. We cannot go and hear from any Tom, Dick and Harry. Right? So that should be very clear. And he goes to the next section. So we saw 2 sections so far. This is the 3rd section. This begins with a beautiful verse. Ye yatamam prapadyante tamstateva bhajamyaham mama vartamanu manushya partha sarvashaha. Very nice verse. The meaning of this verse is, depending upon to what level we surrender to Supreme Lord Krishna, accordingly Krishna reciprocates. Right? So one example given here is that of an elephant. I'm sure you all would be aware of this story. 5 blind men, they went and they wanted to know what elephant is. They have not seen an elephant. Somebody goes and touches the trunk of an elephant. Right? So that person thought that, okay, elephant is something like a snake. And the second person, he went and touched the tusk of the elephant. He thought that probably it's a spear. It's a weapon probably. And somebody else touched the ear of an elephant. They thought that the elephant is actually a fan. And the other person touched the tail of an elephant. He thought it's a rope. And finally, somebody touched the body of the elephant. He thought that probably it's a wall. Right? So the perspective depends. Because each one of them were blind, they did not understand the right understanding of what an elephant is. So, accordingly, the Lord reciprocates. He gives that knowledge depending on the level of our surrender. When somebody wants only material enjoyment, then the Supreme Lord shows us all the different devatas. Okay, you go and worship them, you perform some karma kandi sacrifices, then you get all the material benefits. That person will not never understand Krishna at all in the life. Someone others may be a nice devotee of the Lord only for material satisfaction. So he goes every year at least 10 times to Tirupati. He may go to Srirangam. He may visit all the temples. He may put some money in the hundi. He may perform some sevas. But the intention is to achieve material satisfaction, sense enjoyment. So Krishna accordingly reciprocates. He will not give that deep realization. The transcendental knowledge will not be revealed to such personalities. When somebody is very sincere, like Arjuna, becoming or trying to become a devotee of the Supreme Lord Krishna, in that mood, when we approach the Lord, Supreme Lord Krishna, then he will reveal the ultimate truth. So that's what Krishna is mentioning here. Ye tamam prapadyante tam stateva bhajamya. You take 10 steps towards me, I am going to reciprocate by coming 100 steps closer to you. Right? So, based on that, Krishna's reciprocation will also vary. And Krishna also says that he only created the 4 different varnas. Chaturvarnyam maya shrishtam guna karma vibhagasaha. Tasya kartaram apimam vidya kartaram avyayam. So based on the 3 modes of material nature and the work associated with him, the 4 divisions of human society are created by me. What are the 4 divisions of the society? Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. And on what basis is somebody termed as a Brahmana? It is based on Janma, it is based on Guna Karma. Based on somebody's Guna or based on the activities of that person. So this knowledge as well, Krishna is clearly giving in this section of Bhagavad Gita. Right? So which means Krishna's intention of telling about these things in the Bhagavad Gita is that he is not approving the caste system. Nor is he saying that all the spiritual paths, they lead to the same destination. When somebody is only performing karma kanda sacrifices mentioned in the Vedic scripture, he is not going to attain Vaikuntha. He will only attain heavenly planet. He cannot go past the material world. Or somebody has intention to enjoy in this life, then he will again take birth in the material world. Right? So all the paths, they don't lead to the same destination. And similarly, Krishna only created these 4 varnas. The intention is that one should increase our Krishna consciousness. One should increase our spiritual progress. When somebody is having the characteristic of a Shudra, the intention is that he needs to get all the learning from the higher classes and slowly try to elevate to the standard of a Brahmana. So that is the intention of the Supreme Lord Krishna. As we can clearly see from the Puranas, many of the people, like for example, one clear-cut example is Vishwamitra. Also one clear-cut example is Parashuram. Though he was born in a Brahmana family, but he had all the qualities of a Kshatriya. Right? So he went and killed 21 generations of Kshatriyas. The Kshatriyas after that gutsy war with Kartavirya Arjuna. So that story we know from the Puranas, from Srimad Bhagavatam. So which means that though Parashuram was born in a Brahmana family, but he had all the qualities of a Kshatriya. So he is called as a Kshatriya. So similarly, somebody may be born in a Brahmana family, like for example, the other example that I can think of is Dronacharya and Kripacharya. So they all were Brahmanas by birth, but they had that Kshatriya intentions, Kshatriya qualities. Right? Similarly, there are cases where somebody may be having Kshatriya birth, but the qualities are that of a Brahmana. So either ways it is possible. So Krishna is saying, I only created these 4 varnas and the intention is for spiritual progress. So the lesson for us, determination of caste by birth is refuted in Bhagavad Gita. Then Krishna speaks about the knowledge of karma, the intricacies of action. They are very hard to understand. Therefore, one should know properly what action is, what forbidden action is, and what inaction is. So basically, there are 3 things that Krishna is mentioning here: karma, vikarma, and akarma. Karma is a pious action, vikarma is a sinful action, and when somebody performs pious action, he is going to enjoy, but ultimately he is going to take birth again. Sinful action, he is going to suffer and he is going to again take birth. So whether you do pious activity or impious activity, rebirth is for certain. Only when we perform akarma or inaction, activities which are focused on the Supreme Lord Krishna, only that would lead us to the spiritual world, to the Goloka Vrindavana or Vaikuntha. One cannot have the material conception of life and go back to Vaikuntha. That is not possible. One should avoid both karma and vikarma. Right? So that Krishna is saying here clearly. So Krishna is not responsible for our situation. It's all in our hands. Right? I will tell a short story here. I may be extending today's session by a little bit because I spent some time on the recap to the yesterday's session. I will take liberty to extend it by a few minutes. So, a couple of stories that clearly showcases what the difference is between somebody performing karma or vikarma, pious activities, as against somebody performing devotional activity called akarma. Right? So, there was a king by name Nrga, Nrga. So, this is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. So, this king apparently he was having a lot of wealth and he wanted to give in charity to all the Brahmanas. Right? So he was very proud that he had so many cows and he was trying to gift all the cows to the Brahmanas. So Godana is very, very auspicious and it is going to give us pious results. So he invited many Brahmanas and he started giving 100 cows to each of the Brahmana. It so happened that he gave the pious activity or pious dana, charity, to many Brahmanas. Apparently, to one Brahmana, one particular Brahmana, when he gave 100 cows in charity, one of those 100 cows, it again came back to the king's farm, which the king was not aware. Unknowingly, what he did, to the second Brahmana, when he was about to give 100 cows, he also included that cow which came back from the first Brahmana. So he gave that dana to the second Brahmana as well. Now the first Brahmana, he came and he was so furious. He said, how come you can give only 99 cows to me, but whereas others you gave 100? Then when inquired, he came to know that that 100th cow was given to the second Brahmana. So now the king said, okay, you forget that cow, I will give some other cow. But the first Brahmana said, no, I want that same cow. Now he went and requested to the second Brahmana, you please give back that cow because it was already given in charity to the first Brahmana. But the second Brahmana refused. No, you gave 100 cows to me, I cannot give back one. Now the king was in complete perplexity. What can he do? He had real good intention. He wanted to perform pious activity. He gave cows in dana. Imagine, we cannot give a cow in dana in present day. It will be so costly. Right? Those days he was giving 100 cows to thousands of brahmanas. So you know what happened in the end of this life? When he passed away, the king, he went to the Yamaloka. And Yamaraja, he came and told, oh, King Nriga, in your life you performed many pious activities, but you also performed one sinful activity. You want to enjoy the result of sinful activity first or the pious activity? The king said, I will better enjoy the result of sinful activity. What is that I performed as a sin? Then Yamaraj told, you gave 99 cows to 100 cows to one person. That cow came to the other Brahmana, and the first Brahmana got really irritated. So he gave shapa to you, because of which you have to be born as a lizard. So in the next life, the great king Nriga, he took birth as a lizard. Just imagine what a pious, so-called pious activity done with a good intention could do. Right? So these days, people, they give charity to the orphanage, they give money to beggars, right? So they give so many welfare activities, they contribute. So these are pious activities, so-called pious activities. But these pious activities could also turn against you. Say, for example, I am giving 10 rupees to a beggar, and that beggar goes to a wine shop and he drinks wine. Part of that karma, it will reach us, whether we want it or not. We did it with a good intention. We wanted to feed that beggar. But because he did some nonsense activity, we are going to incur sin. Right? So that's why Krishna said, you better don't do either pious or impious activity. You perform akarma, activities that are going to please me. And for that as well, there is an example. Even though you may perform imperfectly bhakti towards Supreme Lord Krishna, but still we are going to get full benefit. There was a devotee of Krishna named Ambarish Maharaj. He was fasting for an entire year, Ekadasi fasting. And the moment he wanted to break his Ekadasi, Durvasa Muni came along with his 60,000 disciples. He came to Ambarish Maharaj's palace and said, we will take prasadam in your house. So now we will go to take bath. We will come back after some time. You wait for us. We will have prasadam together. Ambarish Maharaja waited and waited, but Durvasa Muni, he never came back. But he had to break the Ekadasi fasting as well. He was not even drinking water for one full year. He had to break that fast on Dwadasi day. So what could he do? He inquired some of his pandits. The Veda pandits said, you can take a sip of water, so that will do. By that, you are not actually disrespecting Durvasa Muni either. You are also breaking your Ekadasi fast. So listening to them, Ambarish Maharaj, he just took a sip of water, a drop of water. But Durvasa Muni got really furious. You invited me as your guests, but you are disrespecting me. How come you can break your fasting without my presence? So he cursed and he actually brought a great demon with an intention to kill Ambarish Maharaj. But you know what happened? The demon got killed by Lord Vishnu's Sudarshan Chakra, and that Sudarshan Chakra started chasing Durvasa Muni. Durvasa Muni could not go anywhere. He went to the Indraloka, Brahmaloka, Shivaloka, finally to Vaikunta. He went and fell at the feet of Lord Vishnu. Vishnu said, I cannot do anything because you offended my devotee, Ambarish Maharaj. The clear difference between King Nriga and King Ambarish Maharaj. Nriga's intention and his pious activity was also good. Ambarish Maharaj was also performing nice activity, but both of them were imperfect. Ambarish Maharaj also broke the fast without giving prasadam to Durvasa Muni. King Riga also did some pious activity and it was done imperfectly. See the result of King Riga, who took birth as a lizard, as against Ambarish Maharaj, who was protected personally by Lord Vishnu. That is the effect of performing akarma activity. Even though you may be performing it imperfectly, but still you are going to reap the full benefit. So you need not worry at all. Right? If you sincerely follow the instruction of Bhagavad Gita, then you need not fear at all. Right? So where were we? I'll just wrap it up in quick time. Yeah. So just 5 more slides, we will just finish it off. So we need to take the decision whether I want to perform karma, vikarma or akarma. Akarma is that activity which does not give us any result. Rather, it is going to give us spiritual result. Right? And how are we supposed to receive this knowledge? In the 34th sloka, Krishna is saying, Tad viddhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnani nastatva darshinaha. You can receive this knowledge by approaching a spiritual master, a guru. How? By inquiring from him submissively, rendering service unto him. By doing so, that spiritual master will give you this knowledge. Krishna is telling the statement because one may be saying, but Prabhu, Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, that happened 5,000 years back. Who will guide me? How can I receive this transcendental knowledge? For that, Krishna is giving answer. He is saying, you don't worry. I have given this knowledge to different paramparas, authentic paramparas. You go and approach a spiritual master or a guru in any one of these authentic parampara and you receive that knowledge. How? By submitting yourself and by rendering menial service. By doing so, the spiritual master will be pleased and he will impart that knowledge, the transcendental knowledge. Very, very important here. We cannot achieve perfection in our life, spiritual perfection, on our own. We require the mercy of a spiritual master, a guru. We cannot study scripture and understand. We need the mercy of the spiritual master. The spiritual knowledge is transmitted from heart to heart, from the heart of a pure devotee to the heart of a practicing sadhaka. Only by that mean we can understand that knowledge. Right? So the teacher will train in sacrifice, and we will also see what is the difference between caliber versus character and what is the topmost sacrifice. So mundane knowledge or material knowledge we develop by our own effort. Right? Somebody may be born brilliant, having a lot of capability to memorize things. So we can actually understand the materialistic subject matters nicely. We may be able to score nicely in academics and we may be able to get into a good college, get into a good job, all those things. But if we want to develop nice bhakti character, if you want to become a nice Vaishnava or a devotee, that we can do by performing sacrifice to Lord Vishnu, by controlling our senses, by surrendering to an authority, right? By surrendering to a spiritual master, and finally by rendering service with a humility and service attitude. With a proper service attitude, understanding that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, I am his servant. In that mode, when we render service, we actually develop good character, devotional character. Right? And what could be the topmost sacrifice than the chanting of the holy name? This is the Yuga Dharma. In this Kali Yuga, Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nameva Kevalam, Kalau Nastyeva, 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 Gatiranyata. In this age of Kali, there is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way than chanting of this Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. So there is no other way than the chanting of this Hare Krishna Mahamantra that can deliver us from this cycle of birth and death. So chanting is most important. And of course, reading the Bhakti scriptures like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. These are the topmost sacrifices in this present age. And finally, we need to be doing sense control. Right? Sense control meaning controlling our senses against indulging in sense gratification. Right? Prominently meat eating, intoxication, illicit connection, and gambling. These are the 4 sinful activities. When you want to become a devotee of Krishna, you need to give up these 4 sinful activities. Right? Of course, having said that, when somebody is indulging in these sinful activities, it does not mean that one cannot chant the holy name. Rather, by chanting the holy name, we will slowly get purified. We can overcome these 4 sinful activities. So Hare Krishna Mahamantra is so powerful that it can purify us. Right? So life lesson for us, just like how nature has provided us oxygen and water, Krishna has also provided spirituality. So we need to learn the spirituality from an authentic source, receive this transcendental knowledge from a bona fide personality, and we need to adapt our life in accordance to the transcendental knowledge. So that's the path of perfection. We are all taking a baby step here, getting closer to the Supreme Lord Krishna. And as and when we start opening each and every page of Bhagavad Gita and we take to the instruction of Lord Krishna, we are getting nearer and nearer to the Supreme Lord Krishna. And at the end of life, we can definitely achieve perfection and go back home, back to Krishna's place. So with that, I will end the session here. Extremely sorry. As I mentioned, I spent quite a bit of time to give a recap of yesterday's session since it was disruptive, and I took the liberty in extending the session today. So this is all about the 4th chapter. So we saw different aspects in the 4th chapter today. Mainly the subject matter is on transcendental knowledge, how we need to receive that knowledge, and what is it that we are going to get by receiving that knowledge. Right? So these are the subjects discussed today. Any questions that any of you have? I would be happy to take. Is Usha Sitaraman Mother, any question that you have? I saw you unmuted.
No more, Prabhuji.
Okay. So I will definitely share the recordings of yesterday and today. So I request you all to read these chapters. I hope that you have read 1st and 2nd chapter from last week. This week we saw 3rd and 4th chapter. So you can spend some time to study 3rd and 4th chapter from Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is. It would be very helpful for you. Because I have only given a glimpse. Prabhupada has given extensively in those chapters. So I request you to study before coming to the next week. Thank you so much for your patience. Looking forward to connecting with you all again next week, next Saturday. Until then, have a nice Krishna conscious week. Chant nicely and study Bhagavad Gita. Try to offer whatever you can to Lord Krishna. Whatever you prepare, be it fruits or grains or whatever it is, right? On a day-to-day basis, make that habit to offer it to the Supreme Lord Krishna. Because we don't want sins in this life. So thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vranda ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.